to go out of town for an event this weekend. I wanted to share with you the products that I packed and took with me for my makeup. So, one of the first things that I always pack is a mirror. I really like to make sure that I have mirrors that have some sort of magnification because that just sort of helps with seeing clearly, and this is one that does light up, which I really appreciate because oftentimes in hotels or Airbnbs, or even if you're staying with someone, you never know what your lighting and your mirror is going to, like, your options will be. This is also one that you can charge, so basically all I do is I charge it up the night before, and if I need to use the light, then that's typically enough of a charge to get me through the weekend or week or whatever. I also took some lashes. This is a lash carrying case from House of Lashes. I got this years ago. Like, I don't even know if they still have it, but I really like this because I am able to put a couple of lash options in there. There's also a mirror, so you can see that I took some kind of like regular, a bit more dramatic, and then super dramatic lashes. What I also like is that there is this little compartment here where you're able to put some of your lash application tools. You can fit one of their mini lash glue in here, but I don't have one. I have their regular size glue, which does fit nicely in there. And then I also threw in this Kiss lash applicator because I do like to use a lash applicator to apply my lashes. This isn't necessarily my favorite one. I prefer my bigger ones, but they don't fit in here. So, and you can see there's like a theme of like rose gold, pinky. That's just my thing, you guys. Now, in this little pouch, this is a little Dermalogica pouch that I think came with like trial size things in like a bigger purchase that I made, but I've had it for a while. I always like to keep these like little pouches and things because you can always throw minis or whatever in here, and yeah, they're, you know, usable. So this was also partially packed from another trip I had to take, so that's why I just kept everything in here. But the first thing is a foundation primer. This is the Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer. This is one of my favorite primers, so I really love having it in this mini or little travel size because I get to take my favorite primer with me. This is where I put my foundation. Now, as a contact lens wearer, I have a billion of these like contact solution or contact lens carriers. What I did with this one, that's an old one, is I just cleaned it out, and this is where I put my foundation pretty much. So I really like that this is, you know, a reusable thing, and rather than taking a full bottle of foundation, I can just put in a few drops of whatever foundation I want to take and I'm good to go. And I actually took two different foundations. In one of the compartments I had my Nars Soft Mat, and in another compartment I had my Dior Backstage. Now, I wanted to make sure to take some long wearing foundations because I knew the event was going to be really long, and I wanted to make sure that my makeup kind of stayed in place, and these are the two foundations that I find do that the best for me. So there's that. Yeah. So also in here, I have some eye products. This is a Lorac Pro Fiber mascara. So any mini mascara I just like to keep around so that if I'm going somewhere, can have some choices rather than taking a larger sized one. This one is nice, like it has a nice brush or applicator, so I mean nothing super duper special about why I picked it. It's just that it was a mini that I had that I like. And then I have a gel liner from Smashbox, and it is in the shade Fishnet, so it is a black liner. I just always like to make sure that I have one with me. And I also took the Natasha Denona Macro Blade liquid liner, and this again is a mini, and I always like to make sure that I have a black liner with me. So typically this stuff would maybe go in my bigger pouch that I'll show you, but it was already packed, and so I was just like, that's fine. Now, the bigger bag that I have is from Sonia G. This is one of her travel cases that I have, the only one that I have. I do have a much bigger travel case, and that one is from Sephora, and that's the one that I tend to take when I'm going away for a longer period of time. But this is sort of like if I'm going away for a weekend or a couple of days. So I like this bag because it has a lot of different compartments. You've got this little zipper side here, and then you've got these two bigger compartments and lots of space inside. So let me just show you a couple things. So here is the inside of one compartment. Let's go through what I have in here. I do have a sponge, a blender in here. This is one from Shop Missy. I like to make sure to take a sponge with me because just in case I don't bring the like face brushes I need, I know that with a sponge I can pretty much do my entire face. I can do my base, my foundation, my concealer, my powder, my blush, my bronzer or contour. I can do everything with a sponge. So I always like to make sure that I have one, and I actually really like their sponges, the Shop Missy sponges. They're like spongy. Also in here, I have a powder puff. This is from Makeup Forever, and I really like using this for my powders. So whether that is under eye powder, because it has this sort of triangular shape, you can really get into the corners of like under your eye, and I also can use it for all over face powder if I want to. So that is the other kind of blender that I took with me. The blush that I took is this Milani Cream Blush. One reason that I took it is because I'm panning it. Also, it's a shade that I like. It's a shade that I wear pretty regularly. This is the shade Merlot Moment. So any sort of pinky, kind of reddish toned blush is one that I would probably just grab. And also this is pretty compact. It's actually pretty durable, and so I wanted to make sure to have something that not only did I like, but that I wasn't worried about like breaking or anything. For bronzer slash contour, I actually took this Fenty Beauty Matchstick in Espresso. So I wanted to make sure to have something, again, that was compact and very portable. And I thought that this would work better than some of my larger like bronzer or contour palettes, or even some of the powder ones. I just find like cream products a lot of times, they're a bit easier when you're traveling because you don't have to worry about breaking things. Well, I guess you can worry about breaking it, but for me, I don't like shatter my cream products in the same way that I do my powder products. So I went ahead and took this. Now I do have the other two pieces to this set. It's like a lighter shade and then also a highlighter, but I knew I wasn't really going to use those because I don't typically use them, and so I just went ahead and this, which is the contour shade or bronzer, whichever. Use it for whatever you want to. Now, also here is a zippered part, and in here I have a couple of items. This is where I have my pressed powders. So this is my Pat McGrath Under Eye Setting Powder, and this is in the shade Yellow. I like to make sure to have my favorite under eye setting powder with me always. I don't really use the mirror and stuff because the packaging is, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired, but I wanted to make sure to have this, and I was able to use this powder puff with it. The other powder that I make sure to take is my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder, and the one that I am working on, there we go, is in the shade Tan. This was also one that I was able to use my Makeup Forever powder puff with. If you are interested in this, it does come with their loose powder, so if you buy the powder, you get like a sponge. So those are the powders that I took. And then I also have in here a brow pencil. This is just a Benefit Precisely My Brow pencil. Has a spoolie on one end and then the pencil on the other. Now, onto eyeshadow, which is arguably my favorite thing. I took minis. So yeah, I find that minis are the easiest to give me a variety of choices as well as not take up much space. Arguably, I could have taken just 2 of these and been fine, but yeah, I didn't. So let me show you what I actually took and why and what I ended up using. So these are a couple... out the way. These are a couple of my Natasha Denona minis. I wanted to make sure to take something neutral. Basically what I did was I kind of decided on my outfit options and then based the makeup on that. But also typically these are the kinds of colors that I will take with me when I'm traveling somewhere because I know that they're going to kind of go with everything, you know? So this one is the mini Biba, and we have the mini Glam, the mini Nude, and then for some color, I actually threw in the mini Love. I love pinks and mauve tone colors, so I knew that if I did want a bit more color, this was kind of the color story I would lean toward. So I just kind of threw this in like just in case I was feeling a little sassy. But what I really appreciate about these other 3 is that they are all pretty neutral. So the mini Nude and the mini Biba, this is the mini Nude, this is the mini Biba, they're pretty much super similar, except that the mini Biba has more of a rosy undertone. And so honestly, I just couldn't decide which way I wanted to go. And I always like a rosy undertone, so I made sure to just throw this one in there. Otherwise, I probably would have just stuck with the mini Nude because it's tried and true. You can actually see that I've put some dents in this shimmer here. I really like to use that. And I actually ended up using the mini Glam. There are also some dents in these shimmers, but I used this because I knew that I could get a really simple, nice look out of it. I used those 2 shimmers and this deeper shade here and came out with a really nice look. The event I was going to was kind of like semi-professional. I was going to have to get up and speak as well as like interact with people and answer questions and things like that. But I also knew that, you know, my colleagues and I would be getting some drinks and stuff afterwards. So I wanted to make sure to have something that sort of could transition from professional to like, girl, can I get like 2 glasses of that champagne? And for me this time, that was the mini Glam. So you could say that I could have just taken this one with me, but I never know what mood I'm gonna be in, so I like to have options. But you don't need all of these, you know? But I really like how compact her minis are, and I knew that this was going to be something that was like semi-professional, so I didn't want to necessarily go into like my Pat McGrath minis and things like that. These are all minis that I like and are tried and true. So that is that compartment. There's nothing else in there, and there's nothing in this one. So let's go to this other side. So I don't have anything in this part, and I do have my brushes here. What I like is that there's this cover here, and you can also put brushes in this side. Oh, can you see that? You can also put brushes in this side, and it has this kind of protector as well as this other flap. And I do have some stuff in here before I go on to the brushes. So I took 2 lip liners and 2 liquid lipsticks. Now, because I knew that I was going to be speaking and I also knew that I would be drinking, I wanted to make sure to take liquid lipsticks. I know lots of people don't like them anymore, but I still love my liquid lipsticks just because I talk so much and they just stay on. Now, the lip liners that I took are both from Colored Rain from their Botanical collection. I wanted to make sure to have a brown lip liner and then a more mauve-y, reddish lip liner because those are basically the 2 lip liners I wear in terms of color. So this one here is the brown one and it is called Decadent. And then this one is the more mauve-y, rosy toned, and this one is called Queen Tings. Now, since I threw in that like mini love palette, I did want something pink toned, and this is again from Colored Rain, and it is their mini liquid lipstick in mauve rose or mauve rose. And I know that I can manipulate this to look more brown with the brown liner, or I can make it look rosier with the rosy tone liner. So I knew that I could get a couple of looks out of this. And I wanted to make sure to have a red because typically when I do like a neutral eye look, a lot of times I like to have a bright lip. So this is actually the shade Scarlet in a mini liquid lipstick from Juvia's Place. And this is actually the one that I ended up wearing for the event. I'll try to remember to put a picture in there. But I feel like it was a good choice. It lasted all night. It lasted through me talking. It lasted through wearing a mask. It lasted through drinks, drinks. Lasted the whole night. Like, yeah. So there is that. Also in this side, some other like face products. Here is the concealer that I took. This is the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer, the like OG, and it's in the shade Deep. This is a concealer that I know I can depend on. It always wears well on me. So I like when I'm going somewhere, I like to make sure to take products that I know I'm not going to have to worry about or fuss over. So for me, that is this Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I also wanted an eyeshadow primer just because I always use eyeshadow primer. So the one that I decided to take is this Sigma eyeshadow stick, and I like these because they are so portable and easy to use. So I often, if I'm going somewhere and I don't want to take like my Makeup by Mario palette or other primers, like ones that are sort of in this pen form, I find are the easiest to use, especially if I'm packing things in something like this, because I can just stick it in one of the compartments. So I think those are all of the makeup products. Let me tell you about the brushes that I chose to take. Now remember, I did take my sponge, and this was sort of like a backup in case I forgot a brush or I didn't want to use a brush. You know, sometimes I go back and forth. But the first one that I packed is this Sonia G Fusion brush. This is the Jumbo Base. This is one of my favorite brushes for foundation. I knew that I could use this for foundation, and because of like that contoured shape, I also knew that I'd be able to use it to blend out my concealer if I wanted to. So basically this was like 2 products in one in terms of what I could use. Now for bronzer and blush, I took the Sonia G Fusion Collection Classic Base, and basically I know that I like the way this applies my bronzer or contour. It's like pretty much the brush I always use for that step, and I knew that I could use this for blush as well. Now I did take my Sonia G microfiber towel, so I was able to wipe these off in between products so that I wasn't like, you know, I wasn't getting foundation on the concealer and I wasn't getting contour on the blush. You get what I mean. Those were the two face brushes that I took. The rest are eye brushes. Now, this brush is the Rephr number 28, and this is a brush that I really, really like for putting on shimmers. I find that it is just, it's a staple, honestly. I prefer Rephr's eye brushes over their face brushes, but I'm typically using this one or one similar to it whenever I'm putting on a shimmer. Along with that, I took this Sonia G from the Lotus collection. This is the worker brush. I wanted to make sure to have something a bit bigger, still dense, and like tightly packed, as well as sort of flat, because that helps to apply shimmers a bit faster. So I could use this Rephr one to get into like the corners and stuff like that, and then I could go ahead and use this one more on the lid. The other two Sonia G brushes I took for blending and purposes and for use with mattes is the Classic Crease from the Sky collection, just a really good brush to help you blend things, as well as the Jumbo Blender from the same collection. I use this to pack on a matte shade on the outer parts of my eye. And the last brush that I took is the BK Beauty 204. I always like to take some sort of like pencil or flat definer brush because I often will use that to apply shadow on my lower lash line or to like smudge things out a bit, and this is one of my favorites. Let's see, I think that is it. Those are all the things that I took for makeup purposes. I'm really curious to hear what you tend to take with you in your bag, what you use, and if you have any suggestions. Hopefully some of this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.